U.S. Saudi Arabia seals weapons deal worth nearly $110 billion immediately, and then $350 more billion over 10 years. Wow. Now, we already know that we sell cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia, which most of the world considers a war crime because 90% of the people cluster bombs kill are civilians. Now, you would think that would be the kind of weapon that ISIS would use. No, we make it here. We manufacture it here in a good Christian factory that makes Christian cluster bombs. Then we send them to Saudi Arabia, the people who behead people in the street. And then they take the cluster bombs that kill mostly civilians and they drop them on the poorest people in the world in Yemen in fishing villages, and it kills men, women, and children. People are already starving in that country because of all this, because of what Saudi Arabia is doing. And we already admit by the way, they're the ones supporting ISIS, Al-Qaeda. That's Saudi Arabia. And we're selling them. So the idea that we have a war on terror is a joke. We do not have a war on terror. We are using the war on terror to use our military to overthrow governments and open up their natural resources to corporations. That's what we're doing. That's what you know how I know? That's what we've always done. And no one ever says, hey, what is our special love with Saudi Arabia? Didn't most of the 9/11 hijackers come from Saudi Arabia? Didn't Osama bin Laden come from? What the F? Why are we aren't they an overly repressive theocracy? Aren't women, they're not even allowed to drive? Aren't we supposed to be against that stuff? No, we're not. And it all comes down to the petrodollar, too, which they'll never talk to. It's amazing how you never hear the petro. I'm here with Ron Placone and Steph Zemra. You never hear the petrodollar even ever mentioned, right, on the news? Do you?
No,
never.
seldomly.
The petrodollar is the Saudi Arabia. When we got off the gold standard, they agreed to monetize oil in U.S. dollars. And for them doing that, what we offered back was the use of our military, and we've been doing it ever since. They offered to pay for us to overthrow Assad, to invade Syria and overthrow Assad. Saudi Arabia offered to pay the United States to do that, and we were willing to do it. I mean, the administration was. How do I know this?
With respect to Arab countries offering to bear cost and to assist, the answer is profoundly yes, they have. That offer is on the table. With respect to boots on the ground, profoundly no. There will be no boots on the ground. The President has said that again and again, and there is nothing in this authorization that should contemplate it, and we reiterate, no boots on the ground. In terms of what do you do if it doesn't work, I think I'll let General Dempsey speak to the question of targeting, which he can't go into in detail. But we have absolute confidence that what our military undertakes to do, if it is ordered to do so, will degrade the capacity of Assad to use these weapons and serve as a very strong deterrence. And if it doesn't, then there are subsequent possibilities as to how you could reinforce that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And the details on the offer and the proposal on the table, what are the figures that we're talking about?
Well, we don't know what action we're engaged in right now, but they've been quite significant. I mean, very significant. In fact, some of them have said that if the United States is prepared to go do the whole thing the way we've done it previously in other places, they'll carry that cost. That's how dedicated they are to this. Obviously, that's not in the car.
I don't know if you heard what he just said. I'm going to play that last part one more time.
States is prepared to go do the whole thing the way we've done it previously in other places.
If the United States is willing to go do the whole thing like we've done in other places, what will they do if the United States uses their military to go in and overthrow Assad like we've done in other places? We do the whole thing ourselves. What were they willing to do?
Carry that cost.
They were willing to carry that cost. There it is. What? So we're loaning out. So now we're mercenaries for Saudi Arabia. That's where we are. And we've been for a long time. And no one says anything. Like if you were, there's nothing in this article about that. There's nothing in this CNBC article about how horribly oppressive, beheading, they're the worst. They fund fucking terrorists. How they rent out our own military to go set the Mideast on fire, which they do. How we sell cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia, which most of the world considers a war crime because it is. None of it. They never did this. So the reason why we have a show is because the mainstream media is so shitty that people come here to get the news. They don't show you that. They're not going to show you that on MSNBC. They're not going to tell you that's why we're really there, because Saudi Arabia wants to overthrow Syria and Qatar. He says our Arab friends, but he means Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And they're willing to pay for the whole thing.
In fact, some of them have said that if the United States is prepared to go do the whole thing the way we've done it previously in other places, they'll carry that cost.
I love how he laughs before he says it, too. Yeah. They said, this arrangement we have, petrodollar for military, they said they'll do the whole thing. So, let's just go kill some motherfuckers and throw it for another government. Come on, they're going to pay for it. What's the big deal?
We're really winning out on this bargain. I mean,
we're really winning. It. So we go and we kill a couple of 100,000 more people and whatever, but we don't have to pay for it.
And then you have people that are sitting behind him. The
people with the hands.
Yes.
So go back to these hands. That's Medea Benjamin and
She's
the code
at the end.
And the code pink. Oh, this is her over here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Holding the white.
And
sign.
that's the code pink, and they put the blood on their hands while he's trying to get people to okay more bombings. This is the guy who made his bones protesting an illegal war, standing up against an illegal frickin' military action, a stupid one, an unethical one, an immoral one, based on a lie, by the way. They lied so we could have the Vietnam War. You know that. The government lied. The CIA lied. The government lied. The media lied. The media forwarded that.
But that never happened again, though, Jimmy.
But that never
after
happened.
Vietnam, we never did it again.
We never did it again. They lied to get us to go into Kuwait. They had to lie to get us to do that. They said Iraqi soldiers were going in and taking babies out of incubators and throwing them on the ground, and they had a woman testifying in front of Congress. It's a total lie. It turned out that woman was on the pay.
They didn't lie about Iraq, though. I mean,
and
that
then,
was all,
oh God damn it, they're right. That was the Iraq War. Then there was a complete lie. They lied about that. What they did was the government gave lies to the New York Times. The New York Times printed them on the front page above the fold. Lies, direct lies that led us into war. Same thing with the Washington Post. Washington Post editorial board was writing editorials about how you're crazy if you don't think we should go into Iraq, that Saddam Hussein is working with Al-Qaeda. That's the Washington Post. That's the New York Times. That's why we have a show, because how rotten those places are. And that ain't telling you this. Here's from the CNBC article. Here's what they say about this weapons pack. So from this article here, here's inside the article. This is gross. It goes, this package of defense equipment and services support the long-term security of Saudi Arabia and the Gulf region in the face of Iranian threats. Why is Iran our enemy? They never tell you that. Why is Iran our enemy? You know why? Because Iran had a democratically elected government, and it was Mossadegh, and he wanted to spread democracy around the Middle East. You think the United States would be on board for that. But we have a thing in America called the CIA, and what the CIA does is fucking murder people, torture people, and overthrow dictators before breakfast. Oh, I'm sorry. Overthrow democratically elected governments before breakfast. If they overthrew dictators, I think maybe we'd be okay.
And you know what?
What they do is they overthrow democratically elected governments and install dictators, which is what they did in Iran, Ron. They got rid of Mossadegh. They installed the Shah, and that's how we got the Ayatollah Khomeini and Iran being anti-American, even though half the country, they're very pro-America, the people. So that's how, they never tell you that stuff. Why Iran? Why is Iran our enemy? You know why? Because we turned them into we overthrew their fucking government and installed a oppressor. That's what we do. So That's why we have a job. So let's get back to this. I'm sorry, you wanted to say
Well,
what?
I was just going to add, Jimmy, defense equipment should refer to pads and a stick that a hockey goalie holds, not bombs. Just throwing that in there.
Defense equipment.
That's cute.
Equipment. That Saudi Arabia is going to go defend themselves in Yemen? Saudi Arabia is defending themselves in Yemen? Gulf region in the face of the Iranian threats, while also bolstering the kingdom's ability to contribute to counterterrorism operations. They are terrorism. Just like, it's so crazy. So crazy. Up is down, in is out, black is white.
War is peace.
War is peace. Oh, my God. Oh, this is unbelievable how they uncritically report this at the CNBC. To counter terrorism operations across the region, reducing the burden on the U.S. military to conduct those operations. The arms, by the way, that's just a quote from the White House. And they uncritically just repeat it. And then he didn't, the next paragraph doesn't say, of course, what I just said. They don't say anything. They just printed it.
It's like what Stephen Colbert said at the Correspondents' Dinner in 2006. Copy, paste, print, go home.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Here's another part of that. It says the arms package represents an enhancement of Saudi Arabia's military capabilities as tensions flare in the region, with the United States viewing the Saudis as a linchpin in efforts to check the global ambitions of Iran. The country, the hub of Islam's most revered sites, but it is also a target of radical Islamic extremism. This is a news report. And then other people will say there's fake news somewhere else. There's fake news somewhere else. That's why the Young Turks exist. That's why this show exists, because the mainstream news media are goddamn stenographers. That's why. And who's the biggest generator of fake news? The fucking government. Always has been, always will be. So here's what I love. I love this too. This deal that Trump did with them exposes the hypocrisy of the Democrats, the Obama administration, and everybody. Sean Spicer tweeted out, in Saudi Arabia, president has just completed the largest single arms deal in U.S. history, negotiating a package totaling more than $109.7 billion. And then Samantha Power, who was Barack Obama's UN ambassador, Samantha Power tweeted out, for a country whose, she retweeted his tweet and then says, for a country whose attacks on civilians in Yemen, that's what we're talking about. She's talking about it too. For a country whose attacks on civilians in Yemen and inability to learn from mistakes have been devastating to human life. So she's poo-pooing that deal. And she's poo-pooing Sean Spicer for tweeting that out. To say, look who you're doing business with. These fucking people are oppressors, are horrible. That's what she's saying. Samantha Power saying that. Hey, Samantha, what the F are you talking about? This is you. Obama administration arms sales offered to Saudi Arabia top 150. That's the what? That's from September 7th, 2016. But this guy, I love this guy, Ali Alamad. He tweeted to Suzanne Power under her stupid tweet. He says, you voted for the Saudi war on Yemen. You are personally responsible. She voted for it. Without your vote for UNSC Resolution 2216, there would be no Saudi war on Yemen. You are part of this war. And then Sarah Leah Whitson says, come on now, this is a bit rich coming from the representative of an administration that linked $100 billion in arms deals to the Saudis, despite attacks on Yemen civilians. So that just crazy. They're just crazy. And they think you're stupid. This is Barack Obama's administration doing that, trying to think you're stupid. So again, they're doing the exact same thing as Trump did. They did the exact same thing. The Obama administration did the exact same thing. And yet, and here they are talk about, and someone else has to worry about fake news. This is the fucking UN ambassador blatantly being phony and false and completely inconsistent and hypocritical to the nth degree. And they fucking make fun of Trump? What the F? And they make fun of Trump. Can you believe that? These people? And this is what the shit they're doing? Wow. Wow. So there you go. Now you're more informed because you watch this show. And I am by no means, I'm a dumb guy, right? I'm just a guy with a good bullshit detector. And I can tell when someone's trying to gaslight me. And the Washington Post and the New York Times and the government, be it the Barack Obama administration or the Trump, they're also gaslighting and lying constantly. No change. They're both in bed with Saudi Arabia. No change. Barack Obama expanded the bombing to frickin' 7, 8 countries. 7. When he came in, we were bombing 2 countries. When he left, we're bombing 7. And probably more. Probably more. There you go. So that's how we covered it here at the Jimmy Dore Show. That's how we covered the Saudi Arab arms deal here at the Jimmy Dore Show. I bet it's a lot different than how they cover it at MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, and the Washington Post. And I am a jagoff nightclub comedian.